Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint Denis. That's a fight that just, I mean, it's a fight. Yeah, that's a serious fight, man. I mean, those two guys are fighters, and at UFC 299, they're going to fight. They're going to get into that octagon and they're going to fight each other. And that, what else can you say, honestly? Just as far as the UFC rankings go, it's definitely an interesting fight. I mean, Benoit is jumping the line here, for sure. But to me, the answer is pretty simple on why the UFC is going in this direction. And that is, well, for one, you know how European fans are. They're absolutely insane when it comes to their sports. And I think Dana is trying to cash in on that French fan base. They went all in on Cyril Gane. Gave him 2 title shots back-to-back, and that didn't work out for him, so they're going in a different direction. And I think Benoit Saint Denis is a good choice. And as far as reason number 2 goes, well, Dustin Poirier is known for going through these crazy wars in the octagon. From his fight with Michael Chandler, Dan Hooker, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje. So if you've got Dustin Poirier in there, the fight is a high likelihood of being fireworks, right? We all know that. But then you look at Benoit Saint Denis, and I think the one defining characteristic that stands out about him is that he's a fucking maniac. This guy is utterly terrifying. Before he got into mixed martial arts, he was essentially a French Navy SEAL, and he fought in anti-terrorist operations. Just by the look of this guy, he's killed people with a knife. But it's not only that. This guy is inhumanly tough. In fact, I'm going to go as far to say I think he is the toughest fighter in the UFC right now. Yeah, I'm putting him over Tony Ferguson, honestly. If you go back and look at his UFC debut, it was back in 2021. And by the time of this fight, he had only been training 4 years. So at the time, he was pretty outskilled, right? But in this fight, I'm saying this with zero exaggeration, he was completely out on his feet, getting rocked over and over and over and over again, to the point where the commentators were screaming to stop the fight.
Dos Santos is like, what do you want me to do?
Right. Oh, stop the fight. Stop the fight.
Oh, stop the fight.
Come on, bro. Oh, big right hand from Alizzi Zaleski Dos Santos.
I don't understand what this guy needs to see.
His opponent unloaded everything he had, and Benoit just took it all. He took every single bit of it and kept coming and made it all 3 rounds. I've never seen anything like it. I thought the Tony Ferguson Justin Gaethje beating was bad. This was worse. Tony may have taken more damage overall against Gaethje, but at least he didn't seem hurt until more towards the end of the fight. But Benoit, he was out on his feet for entire minutes straight. And in the 3rd round, he was still marching forward, winging shots. Other than this sole loss on his record, every single other fight he has won by finish. And let me remind you, he did not start training mixed martial arts till 2017, which is absolutely insane for how well-rounded he is. The number one thing that sets this guy apart from everybody else is his power, his strength, and his pace. He's a southpaw, and he relies on his back body kick heavily. He rips it with thunderous power and just constantly marches you down, gets you backed up to the fence, unloads with punches. And as soon as you shell up, he's shooting. And once he takes you down, he does not lay and pray. He immediately goes to work. When he gets guys down up against the fence, it's very Khabib-like, the way he steps over, ties up your legs, and slowly works into mount. And once he gets you in a bad position, he's just waiting for you to try to explode and buck or turn so he can find the submission. And submissions, he has a lot of. Out of his 13 professional fights, 9 of which was won by submission. So mix in that fact with, like I said earlier, he has a thunderous body kick. He's just using to set up the head kick. He has power in his hands. He has really good setups to land his punches. My favorite of which is when he feints the takedown to try to land the overhand. i.e. Bo Nickel on the Contender Series. But with all this being said, is it enough to defeat Dustin Poirier? Because Dustin Poirier has fought the who's who. He's been at the top of this division for a long, long time. Well, when you just compare their styles against each other, there certainly are some advantages and disadvantages they're both going to have going into this fight. For one, Benoit Saint Denis being a southpaw gives him a big advantage against orthodox fighters because he has that back body kick. But against Poirier, who's also a southpaw, that's not going to be there. Also, Poirier has that low outside calf kick. And when you look at Benoit's stance, he stands very wide and very low with a lot of weight on that front leg. Dustin will even throw calf kicks with his lead leg against orthodox fighters. So against a fellow southpaw, it's going to be something he's looking for. And the other huge factor for Dustin in this fight is that one of Benoit's weaknesses is boxing defense. In his one loss, that, well, is why he lost. In that fight in particular, he certainly had a lack of head movement. He kept getting tagged, didn't make the adjustment, and eventually he started getting really hurt. In more recent fights, though, the fact that he wants to pressure so hard, constantly be in your face and constantly swinging, he leaves himself open to get countered. Though even when he is getting tagged, he still has the wherewithal to slip and then land a spinning back fist. In his fight with Thiago Moises, Thiago landed some bombs on him while getting pressured up against the fence. And if there's one thing we know about Dustin Poirier, i.e. his fight with Michael Chandler, if you're not careful, he'll catch you with a bigger bomb than Thiago Moises can throw. Just overall, Dustin's going to have a huge advantage when it comes to boxing. The only question there is, we know Benoit has a really strong chin, and he is capable of getting hurt, but he has no quit in him. You're going to have to drag him out of the octagon. But when you look at the grappling is when it starts to get really interesting. Specifically, there's two tendencies Poirier has when it comes to grappling that I do not like for this matchup. One is his tendency to go for the guillotine. Now, it's not his first choice, but when an opponent does get deep on a takedown, that's what he goes for. And the problem with that is, right, Charles Oliveira, who has a super, super deadly guillotine, that's his first option when you're shooting. He's just ready to lock it up on you. But for Dustin, it's kind of a last-ditch effort when he knows he's getting taken down. And it's for that reason he has trouble finishing it. And if you want more details on the issues with the guillotine and a look at Dustin's guillotine against Khabib and the issues he has with it, you can look at this video right here where I go in depth. The other tendency I don't like from Dustin when it comes to the grappling is he stays on his back and sometimes rides out entire rounds. And this all stems from his fight with Khabib, where he tried to be really offensive. And Khabib was just shutting him down at every single turn. And he said himself afterwards that in hindsight, he wished he would have just conceded some bad positions, rode out the round so they could get reset on the feet. So when he fought another dangerous submission artist in Charles Oliveira and he ended up on his back, he just stayed there. He rode the round out. And even against Michael Chandler, who's not a really high-level submission artist at all, he did the same thing. And if Benoit Saint Denis takes him down up against the fence, I honestly see Dustin doing the same thing. Now, of course, if it's the third round and Dustin needs that round to win, he's going to try to get back up. But that's where it gets dangerous, as Saint Denis is just waiting for you to turtle so he can get the rear naked choke. Dustin's kryptonite. Though, here's an interesting question. Can Saint Denis take Poirier down? Well, I want you to take a look at these two sequences back to back here and just see how similar they are. Michael Chandler really struggled to get takedowns out in the open, but up against the fence, while he was unloading, he got Poirier to shell up, which is the perfect time to shoot the double leg. And that's exactly what Benoit Saint Denis does. But again, the tools he relies on to pressure guys, which is his back body kick and flurries with his hands, are those going to be there in this fight? The back body kick, we know, won't be as effective. And Dustin Poirier is not the guy you can just unload with flurries of punches. He's going to crack you if you do not set it up well. The reason Michael Chandler had success doing that against Poirier is because of the practically inhuman amount of power he was throwing with. And even then, he was still getting countered. So, honestly, this is where it all comes down to. I give Poirier a huge advantage on the feet, and I give Benoit Saint Denis a big advantage on the ground. But who do I favor to win this fight? The problem with a matchup like this, where a real promising up-and-coming fighter jumps the line against one of the best in the division, is we really don't know the extent to how good Benoit Saint Denis is. We just don't know yet. We're not gonna know until he's tested against the top of the top. Just based on what I've seen from the skill set of both of these guys and how it stacks up together, I believe Dustin Poirier is all around the more skillful fighter. But the last huge caveat here is, Dustin Poirier, he just turned 35 years old. He's coming off a head kick KO. His decline is coming at some point. Is it going to be this fight? I don't know, but it could be. All the variables are there for it to happen. Put a gun to my head and make me give you a prediction. It's either Dustin Poirier cracks him and wins by decision, or Benoit Saint Denis by rear naked choke.